Okay, so once again, welcome, Faith. I'll let you take over the stage now. We are recording, so that's good to go.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Before I started, I want to ask a few of you, where are you coming from? What industries are you in? I would love to tailor some of the content specifically to the industries that you're in, especially since we're going to be creating some content calendars. I think I see an architect here. We have a dance studio. We have somewhat of a career change, interested in food and nutrition, business consultant as well. Are there any others? Okay,
And you can
cool.
always drop it in the chat if you'd like as well, too.
Yeah, great. Digital marketing, personal branding. Great. So I'm going to get started and share my screen with you. All right, starting from the beginning. So tonight we are going to be talking about how to create a social media calendar that really works for you and works for your team ideally. So a little bit about DVC. We're a creative social media agency here in Chicago. What we specialize in is social media marketing, content strategy, social media advertising as well, graphic design, videography, photography, and then overall strategy plan for you and your business. A little bit about me. I have worked in many different industries, from real estate to Grammy nominated artists, to large real estate development firms, to children's apps and museums here in Chicago. So I come from a storytelling background. I was a communication arts and creative writing major in college, and all I wanted to do was tell people stories. And so I found social media as a way to tell stories in all different brands, in all different industries. So I fell in love with social media marketing actually in 2013 when I first started. I was working with a Christian pop artist, and that really made me fall in love with all the possibilities of social media, and being able to really connect with your customer or your ideal client. So to begin, there's such importance to social media, and I think now, especially during the times of COVID, this is a platform where you can really start to connect with your customers, with your potential clients as well. One of the reasons why social media is so important is because we live currently in an informed consumer culture. And so what does that mean? It means that whether you're looking for a new restaurant, a doctor, a roofer, a real estate agent, whatever you're looking for, you're most likely going to be using a search engine like Google and trying to find them online. And so social media is a great way to start to build your online presence. The other reason why social media is so important is because not only are there billions of people on these social media platforms, but these people are being engaged, as well as using the platform to get their news, as well as buy products and buy different services as well. To date, Facebook users have made over 2.5 trillion posts. There have been more than 40 billion photos shared on Instagram, and there's over 200 billion feed updates viewed annually on LinkedIn. So again, these people, the users on these platforms are not only just on them, but they're also being engaged and they're sharing their lives, as well as sharing different products and services as well, and ultimately becoming advocates for you and your brand. The other thing is conversions. Ultimately, all of us want to be selling something. And so For instance, HubSpot has found that traffic from LinkedIn, if you are on LinkedIn or you have made maybe a LinkedIn account for your business, that it's generated the highest visitor to lead conversion rate at 2.74%, almost 277% higher than Facebook and Twitter. If you're selling products, especially in the beauty and fashion industry, Instagram and Facebook also have high conversions for that industry as well. So when I'm talking to a lot of clients, I've heard so many reasons why they just have never wanted to start social media. Some say social media is just too hard to handle because of all the content that is being posted every single second, as well as all of the different things that they have to do within their business. It's just too much to add on to their plate. Some people have said, I just don't understand the return. They haven't been able to really optimize their content and actually get a return from all of the posting as well as the investment in content as well. Some people have said, I just don't have time. And one of the biggest things I think for my clients is that they just don't have time to actually post. And I personally can relate to this. Since I run a lot of other companies' social media, I don't always have time for my own social media. And so I understand that with everything that we're doing, from managing teams to managing campaigns to doing sales, there just sometimes isn't enough time in the day to actually be posting on social media. And so that's why building a consistent content calendar is really helpful to staying consistent, and consistency is key. So it doesn't just, it's not just about consistently posting, but it's creating a consistent brand voice on all of your platforms. So today I want to be talking about can we build a content calendar that's easy for you to be creating, as well as sharing with your team, so that you can continue to be consistent, not only with posting, but also consistent with building your brand voice. So these are some of the tips that I have to starting to build your content calendar. So the first thing you should be doing is auditing your current platforms. So if you don't have any social media or you're just starting out, that's totally fine. That means that you can start from scratch and you can test and test and test. If you do already have some social media platforms already set up and you've been posting, this is a great time to see what's working and what's not working. Really look at the performance of your posts and your campaigns and your insights. Facebook just came out with a platform called Facebook Creator Studio. And so you are able to get all of your insights on your posts as well as your social media ads. You can see what posts were engaged with most, what days were the best for you to be posting on. And so gaining some of these insights will help you develop a strategy that's moved by numbers. For a tip, if you haven't already changed your Instagram to a business or creator account, you should do so now. You're able to then see some of these insights specifically on Instagram as well. The other thing that you can be doing is looking at your competitors, see what they're doing really well, what they might be doing not so well, see what their followers are engaging with, what types of media are they engaging with, are they engaging with more videos compared to static posts? Are they going live on Instagram once a month or twice a week? How often are they using their Instagram stories or their Facebook stories? Are they using a platform more than another platform? Start to kind of see what are your direct competitors using and what are they doing, because you can get a lot of insights as well as see some of the posts that they would be posting to potentially do it yourself. So after you've done an audit and looked at some of your ideas that have been performing really well. You've been looking at your posts, you've been looking at your competitors, and now you can decide on the cadence. And what I tell my clients, especially if they do it kind of DIY, so we sometimes run just a full strategy, and we give them a blueprint that they walk away with, and they can be executing on their own. And so what I want them to be taking away is a blueprint that is realistic to them. So make sure that it's realistic to you. Ideally, you want to be posting at least twice a day. And then dependent on the platform, for instance, Twitter, I normally say, try to post 3 to 4 times a day if you can, and then have 20 engagements. So that means likes, that means reposts, that means comments as well. So depending on the platform that you're on, it depends on how many times you would be posting. For stories as well, try not to go over 8 stories, because sometimes people start to lose interest as well. But what I try to tell my clients is that try to make it realistic for you, because ideally what you want to be doing again is being consistent, not only with the amount of times that you post each week, but also with your brand voice. And so you want quality content that's going out. And so you want to make sure that you're realistic with the cadence that you do post. And so after you've thought of a cadence of how many times you might want to be posting, this is where you start to think about your content buckets, or I call them building blocks of your social media of your company. And so these are some of the questions that I have asked my clients. And I ask them to either on a sheet of paper, or sometimes we do it on a whiteboard, or if you have your notes open on your computer, to work along with me and answer some of these questions on your own. So I would like you to start to be jotting down some of your building blocks of your company, of your brand. So the first question I have ultimately is, what are you offering? What are your products? What are your services? Do you have any special offers that are happening right now? So start to jot down some of those products, services, specifically of what you actually are selling. So writing those down. After that, I ask, how can you enhance your brand story? So this starts to be touching on your mission, your brand voice, who you are, your ultimate kind of unique value proposition that you have within the market. And so I ask them, what is your mission? Who are you? What is your brand voice? Are you enthusiastic? Are you motivational? Are you, is it really laid back kind of voice that you want to have? Is it very serious? What kind of voice do you really want to be consistently posting throughout your platforms? And then going more granular is, some of your voices might be a little bit different on different platforms. So your Twitter voice might be a little bit different from your Instagram voice, but the messaging of your brand has to be consistent. And so the voice might be a little bit different, but the messaging is the same. And so thinking about what kind of voice do you want, as well as what kind of messaging do you have? And then thinking about, what is your unique value proposition? What makes you different from your competitors? What gives you an edge? Is it your affordability? Is it the way your processes work within your business, that you're able to deliver your services a lot quicker than the rest of your competitors? Is it the way you create community, really authentic community within your groups? Is it the diversity of your portfolio, what uniquely, what makes you unique in your market. So jotting those things down. The third thing I ask is, how can you increase your thought leadership? So some simple ones is, what kind of articles could you share on your social media that your followers might find really interesting? Are you mentioned in the media? Are you sharing those mentions? Do you currently write any articles about your business, about your market? How are you sharing those as well? So again, building out your content buckets, your building blocks. What are you offering? How are you enhancing your brand story? And then how can you ultimately increase your thought leadership? So after I have them write down in bullet points, and again, this is all brainstorming. And so what I like to be doing with all of my clients is I like to bring out more of that authentic storytelling. What first comes to mind, when you start to talk about your brand, or when you start to talk about your mission of why you started. So one of the things, the techniques that I love to use is mind mapping. Has anyone used mind maps before? So mind maps is a really great technique that I love to use. It's a way of brainstorming that really works with the way your mind works. It also improves your visualization, and it really inspires some creativity. So some examples of mind mapping for social media are some of these examples. And this is one way that a mind map could come out. So one way you could use a mind map is by repurposing some of your best performing content. So going back to auditing your social media, you can actually pick out, a few content pieces that are performing really, really well. So that could be a video, that could be a blog, that could be a post about a new position. Whatever the best performing content that you have, you can start to create a mind map out of that. So this is about repurposing content. So for instance, this is tips for holiday decorating blog posts. So you could create a PDF checklist, you could create a mini ebook, you could create a newsletter topic, you could create a podcast episode, you could create a video for YouTube out of this best performing content. So that's one way that you could be using mind maps. This is an example that I have if you are, for instance, a real estate agent. So looking at that first question of what are you offering? They would be selling real estate, so real estate listings. So from these mind maps, you would start to brainstorm some specific content items that you could be sharing. So for instance, sold listings. We want to be sharing maybe a photo of a sold listings with maybe a click-through action of, do you want to see more houses like this? Check out our latest listings. We have open houses, so creating a live video, making sure to promote 1 week before an open house. We have an idea of maybe neighborhoods, thinking about what types of restaurants are around, what types of shopping centers, what's the view outside of this home or this apartment? Is it a view of tree-lined streets, or a view of Lake Michigan or the skyline of Chicago? We also have an idea of maybe looking at the finishes or the details of a house, making a live video or Facebook, Instagram story, making sure we have professional photos of the finishes, maybe videos on the feed of finishes. So that might be a different format to be telling your videographers to be getting. And then maybe talking about price drops for real estate as well. This is an example of that brand voice, or you want to be talking about your brand in a way that you want to be promoting your inclusivity and diversity. So you might have an example of the different forms of content that you want to be sharing. So For your blogs, you could have how diversity builds stronger teams, why a VC should be investing in underrepresented companies in Chicago, member videos. If you are a group or you're a co-working space, you could have member videos of their stories, and specifically asking them, why is diversity important to you? You can maybe have a podcast, diversity of thought and how it impacts the creative process could be a segment, or how to build an inclusive company culture. And so again, there's a few different ways that you can start to build out your mind maps. Again, you can think about specific kinds of posts that you have regarding your offers or your brand, or the ways that you can build your thought leadership. You can have different types of media that you want to be sharing, and what specifically will those types of media be focusing on as well. So after I usually create the mind maps with my clients, we then focus on creating your social media content calendar. And so one of the tools that I love to use is called Airtable. I don't know if anyone has ever used Airtable, but it's an amazing tool that I use. You can also create your content calendars with Excel. Some people have used Sprout Social as well. Airtable is one of my favorite tools. It's just a great place to be building your social media calendars. So what you normally would do is first go into building out your content types. So building out those content buckets that we talked about before. So starting to label out all of the different content ideas that you might have that could be supporting some of those questions that I brought up. So for instance, let's take the real estate. We have maybe open houses, price drops, finishes, maybe market insights we can add in, listings as well. Those are the building blocks of your company. So after you start to build those content buckets, you can then go into your calendar. And again, this can be, on a Excel sheet, this could be anywhere. But a lot of the same kind of processes would be still applied. So again, start to lay out your content buckets. I really like color coordinating, so I always like to make sure that everything is able to be color coordinated. So these are market insights. So these would be gray. So then you can start to place in all of these content buckets into your content calendar. For instance, you can look back to your statistics of saying, Mondays are really slow, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, these are, really engaging days. People are engaging and liking a lot more compared to maybe my Mondays and Fridays. And so this is where I want to have some of my most important content, I guess. So I want to be posting most of my listings up here. So you could be posting your listings here. For instance, for this week, you might have, a ton of listings, we'll just say. And then you can also bring in other calendars. So that you have an open house maybe this day at 12 to 2. So maybe if it's 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, then you want to make sure that it's out early in the morning to let people know. So that's an open house promotion, for instance. So this can work, for events as well. If you have, a dance class, you can be putting in, your dance classes are actually on, Fridays and Saturdays. So you need to make sure that you have a promotional post that goes out on Tuesdays to be promoting for your actual maybe dance class that happens at 12 o'clock p.m. You want to make sure that you have the dance class promotion a few days before, for instance. So it works the same way. So an open house is on this day. You have a promotion in the morning, and then maybe you have an open house kind of live footage during that time. So as you start to build this out, you can then add in all of your content onto your calendar. So you can do, for instance, for Airtable, you can do post status, owner, the actual concept, and all of the different captions in for the different platforms as well. And then you can also attach all of your assets. And so this is a great place to put everything, because then after you have a filled out content calendar, you can then give it to your marketing assistant or an intern to just copy and paste and then be posting on Hootsuite if you use a third party, or content. You can use Sprout Social, Facebook Creator Studio, whatever you would use for actually scheduling out your post. It makes it really easy so that you can actually see the layout of your entire social media content calendar. So that is actually the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions so far regarding the content calendar? Or
looks like we had, so it looks like there was one in the chat from Charlie. So the question was, what is listed under post status? Was her question.
What was?
So for Airtable, you had the like going into the category.
Yeah.
Different things, and it was like one that just said post status, and I'm just wondering, like, how is that listed, like posted or pending, or
So post status is, we're in the brainstorming, we're in the design, we're in the copy, needs approval. This is really great if you're working on teams. So I do this a lot with my team so that I know what I need to be approved. And Airtable is really great because you can share it with your clients, and so they can look over everything. And so ultimately, when I'm working with my clients, I give them a full content calendar 2 weeks before the month actually starts. So we can go over everything, and then we can actually post everything, and then we can toggle things off if something changes, we can be adding something, and we can focus on the actual engagement. Because ultimately you want to be social on social media. And so having all this already finished is such a game changer for your client, for you, and then you're able to scale that as well, being, you know, working in marketing as well. You know, coming up with those full month content calendars is a game changer, because you're able to do it so quickly after that, and you can focus on actually, you know, looking at the metrics, looking at ways that you can possibly be changing, you know, afterwards.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So we got a few questions coming in. One question was, how do you set metrics to make sure like you're being successful, and like what metrics are you looking for? You mentioned like engagement, but are there a certain way that you go about setting the metrics to make sure what you're doing is actually working?
Yeah. So basically, you know, you can be setting metrics, you know, within, depending on, you know, the social media ads that you are you know, running, you know, if you want to be doing, you know, click-through actions, how many people are landing on your landing page and actually either signing up for your event, or signing up for your webinar, or downloading your ebook, depending on what you want to be ultimately selling or doing, coming up with some of those goals in mind, and then keeping it realistic with, you know, if you're doing a, you know, an ad, for instance, and you don't necessarily have a large budget, you know, sometimes those numbers can be a little bit smaller. So keeping realistic with, you know, the budget that you have, as well as maybe the content that you're also creating. So making sure, you know, some of the metrics that you could be setting is engagement, how many likes, how many people are actually commenting on your posts, how many people are maybe saving your images as well. How many people are clicking through your stories is some metrics that you can look at as well. Ultimately, you want to be growing it each month, because looking at your analytics, you want to be changing if you need to be changing, or building on top of really high performing posts so that you can then scale that. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think it's important, like you had mentioned, to be able to like track that and know what you're tracking to see if you're being successful. We had a few other questions that came in through the chat. So Heather had asked, is Sortable easy to send to a virtual assistant? And then also, does it share like Slack or Google Docs? And I think the main question she's asking is Airtable easy to use for virtual assistants?
Yes, yes. You can actually add the virtual assistant right onto your base. So there's different bases here. So, you have all different bases that you can actually add different teammates onto. And they have direct access so that they can copy and paste and edit if need be as well.
Perfect. And Heather, let us know if that didn't answer your question. We also have a question in from Sarah. So she said, can you elaborate on post frequency for each platform?
Yeah, so post frequency. So depending on what platform that you are currently using, as well as what have you built so far. So Facebook, for instance, I always say at least 2 times a day. So 2 to 3 times you want to be hitting. But if you are hitting, 2, maybe like 3 times a day and no one is doing any engagement, drop it back a little bit. So maybe you might be posting too much and it's too much information for them. And so then also looking at some of the days that might be working a little bit better as well. And then if it's not the days and it's not the amount of posting, then it might be the content. So start to then be testing with the content. So organically for social media, it takes time. Just like any relationship, I always compare it to building a marriage with your audience. It takes time to build that relationship, having them get to know you as a brand, you as a business, you as a sharing content. So Facebook 2 to 3 times, but again, think about your metrics, think about the analytics that you're getting back and start to toggle based on those. Twitter, again, the more you post, the more engagement you normally get. And so you want to be, really live on that platform. And so normally I try to be posting at least for my clients 5 to 7 times per day. And then we do 20 engagements per day as well. And so that is, tweeting back and forth with potential partners or, giving our opinions on topics that are relating to that industry. So making sure that you are building, again, that thought leadership on Twitter, and then making sure that you're kind of giving back as well. So it's not just, one-way outbound marketing where it's just sales, 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 but you also want to be encouraging other people, liking, engaging with their post, reposting or retweeting their content as well. So making sure that that's a large part of Twitter. So 5 to 7 times of actually posting content. And then I normally say, let's do 20 kind of engagement posts. And that also includes follows as well. For Instagram, I say probably 1 to 2 times per day of actually posting on the feed. But social media, what's really great about it is it's getting more interactive. So stories is really big right now, and you're actually able to get a lot more impressions when you're posting on stories. So for stories, I say, try to be posting at least 3 to 4 times per day on stories, which I think is really helpful because then you're able to have new content that then would go away within 24 hours. So you can keep it, really interesting and start to repurpose more and more of content that you've already created and start to post there without it being too over the top on your feed. And so don't normally post more than 8 stories, because people kind of lose interest after that. LinkedIn, you should be posting probably at least once a day on LinkedIn, whether sharing an article or writing, an update on your business. Also the more times that you're sharing on LinkedIn, the more that you're gaining more of a thought leadership, I guess. So those were kind of the main ones. I can go on to other platforms, and we could probably have another conversation too of my ideas for that. But does that answer your question?
Yep, that's great, she says. So, good. I know we have time for, and she says thank you. So we have time for one more question. Is there anyone else that wanted to ask a question? And why people might be thinking of a question. So quick one for you, Faith. Are there specific tools that you would recommend people start utilizing? You obviously mentioned Airtable. Looks like you're using Canva. It looks like you're using some other ones, but are there like a handful of tools that you and your team use day in and day out that help you become successful?
Some of the tools that we love is Asana. That's our task management tool that we really like to be using. We use Asana. Airtable is our main one. We do use Hootsuite. However, for a tip, we have seen there, due to the algorithm change within Instagram and Facebook, actually posting directly on those platforms help you reach a lot more people than using a third party. So Hootsuite we use only for LinkedIn and Twitter, but we also use Facebook Creator Studio, which I mentioned, for Facebook and Instagram to be posting. And then Sprout Social is what we use a lot for our analytics as well as listening tools. So you're actually able to type in different hashtags, you're able to type in different topics as well. And then anytime people are mentioning specific topics or hashtagging specific hashtags, you can see what they're actually posting. So this allows you to, again, keep up with the relevancy of your brand as well, and be engaging with people who are posting about your industry. So Sprout Social, Hootsuite, Airtable, Asana, Facebook Creator Studio are our main ones. And I can probably write that in the chat as well.
Perfect. Sounds good. And then I just want to say thank you so much again for all your time that you kind of provided in and around how to create a social media calendar that actually works. And I think it's valuable too, how you went through the steps of laying the foundation, right? Of like getting the building blocks right before you even start implementing the calendar. That's key, right? So like the preparation ahead of time and making sure you have the right fundamentals in place before you actually go and execute. So thanks again so much for your time. Last but not least, if people wanted to get a hold of you, I don't know if you want to share it on the screen or if you just want to say it out loud, how would people be able to connect with you? Company website, LinkedIn handles, or anything along those lines would be great.
Yep, so you can contact me at faith@dbcbrand.com. Our website is dbcbrand.com, and all of our Instagram social media is at dbcbrand as well. So faith@dbcbrand. I'll put it in the chat as well.
Perfect. Sounds good. Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to stop the recording now. Let's see.